let's get started. All right. Good morning, good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I'm Olister Rumao, and today we are going to start learn about Company Hub add-on module inside Business Central. Okay. So a quick introduction for myself. I'm Olister Rumao, and I work at CloudFront Technologies as Business Central Navision techno-functional consultant. These are my contact information. I also have a blog and you can go and refer it in case you need any help. So that's with the introduction. Let's get started. Okay, so today's agenda is basically with regards to accountants hub and companies hub, like what is the difference between these. Then we are going to discuss about the user setup and how to use company hub. Then later on we are going to progress towards the development side as to seeing how the whole system works and how things are created. Okay, so starting off with accountants hub versus companies hub. So if people do not know, accountants hub is basically a predecessor of companies hub. So what it means is like prior to company hub coming into picture, Business Central team launched a small like a standalone application on online, which uh, which was used to do all the accounting related activities for external accountants. So like accountants who are not connected directly through Business Central or have their clients in Business Central, they can go and accumulate in that um, inside that accountant hub, and they can do all their tasks. So this is now with company hub coming up in October 2020. There are like a small improvements. There is a little bit of architecture changes, and there's a little bit of difference in how it is deployed and how it works. Okay, so let's get started. The first one is architectural difference. So if you take a look at the Accountants Hub and the Companies Hub architecture, you will find out that Accountants Hub was a standalone application outside of Business Central. Okay, it used to connect with Business Central tenants, like it used to connect with multiple tenants, provided that the credentials are same and everything happens. Whereas when it comes to Company Hub, the Company Hub is like an add-on inside Business Central. So it is self-hosted inside Business Central, and it can access its own tenant versus it can access with multiple tenants outside uh, the Azure AD. So in this case, like the major difference is that the whole hosting part of the Accountants Hub is being taken out, and it is hosted within Business Central itself. Okay, so moving on. So let's take a look at the sign up process. So these are a few of the slides that I have used from my previous webinar on Accountants Hub. So in this case, Accountants Hub was like a separate sign up process for it, and you should go to that specific pages and you could sign up from there. And as per that, you would actually get access to your Accountants Hub app in your home.dynamics.com. Okay, just like your Business Central, how you would get access to it, you would simply get access to Accountants Hub as well. So similarly, for Company Hub now, since it is Company Hub is installed within Business Central, you don't have to actually get access to uh, any kind of system. There is no sign up process because it's not hosted somewhere. It is within your Business Central by default. So it will now in order to access your Company Hub, you just have to log in into your Business Central. And then there is a difference between your environments. So in this case, just like you had a Business Central environment, you also had a Accountants Hub environment. So if you see, I have given up the name here. It is production, and the application family is accountant. So it was like a separate environment which was self-hosted, and it was limited with its actions and everything, but it was like outside of the system rather than being inside the system. So overall, I would say there are major changes which have happened, but it is a small module, and yet I would like to explain because I'm fascinated by it. So if you take a look take a look at company sub, it is within the same business central production environment. Okay, so what is the difference between accountants hub and companies hub on a higher level? First is accountants hub had a dedicated environment, which means that Microsoft would require additional hardware or software requirements to actually host that accountants hub, versus for business central it is like just with company hub, it's just like you're having using business central. There is no dedicated home app, which means that once you log in into your business central, you will directly get access to your company hub. So there's no sign up process for that as well. Then by default, the accountant hub actually connects with the current tenant, like all the sandboxes and production environments within the current system are accessible because you have the same credentials, and it is completely an extension. Versus for accountants hub, it was not like an extension, it was like a standalone application with the accountants hub extension inside it. Okay, so let's take a look at the user setup, how it goes, and what are the steps to do it. So there are two major ways of setting up users in accountants hub or company hub. First one is using the default user. So what I mean by default user is, let's say I'm logging as Olister at some organization.onmicrosoft.com. Okay, I have this my as my business central credentials. I can use that same credentials to log in into multiple environments for that given tenant. Okay, uh, that is one way of setting up. The second way of setting up is, let's say I'm a user Olister at organization one dot on Microsoft.com, and I'm trying to access environments of organization 2, which means that I have to be set up as an external user inside that organization, and then I will be able to leverage all the data that will come up from that organization, and should be able to see it inside my company hub. So Business Central has given a clever way of doing it. First one is by inviting external users, like external hub accountants, and by allowing through, like, like signing up the user through Microsoft 365 process. So when I log in into my business central, let's say this is my user screen. I just have to provide myself with the user groups, and accordingly I'll get the license and permissions for it. The licensing is not different by default. It is like a single, for every business central tenant you get around three licenses free for external accountants, and external price is not specified anything in the licensing part. But the standard setup is like, if you're able to log in into business central with some credentials, you are able to log in into sandbox. You're able to log in into multiple sandboxes and multiple productions within that same tenant. So all you have to provide is the user group or the permissions, and if you go and check the permission set, you will understand that there is a company hub um, permission sets created for the table data. Okay, so this is the second process where I can actually invite an external outside of the organization. So in this case, I'll just go to users. I'll click on invite external accountants. I'll put in the email address, and I want to, let's say if I want to give any email message to that person, I can simply invite him over, and that's all. So once I get it, uh, I should be able to access my business central with that external accountant's account, and then goes the process of company hub setup, which we'll discuss later. The third way of doing is by actually going and adding an external account in your Office 365 or Microsoft 365 through the admin center. Well, I'll click on the add user, guest user, and then it will redirect me to Azure to add that person. So then I'll just click on invite user, and I'll put in the credentials for that person, and accordingly it will create that account. And so if you realize under the username section, you will see that there's something called as the accountant's address, uh, hash ext hash which tenant it belongs to. Okay, so it is like we are creating an indirect account for that Office 365 user, and then you just have to provide him with the Business Central license, okay, for him to access it. So that's one way of doing it. So once I do it, once I set up the external accountant, I have to go and update the users from Office 365, so it will get all the license and all these things directly from Office 365 inside Business Central. And if you see, I have assigned him with an IW license, which is the trial license. Now, uh, after I set up that user as an external accountant, it is mandatory that I should give him the correct permissions. And using that, I will know, basically, I'll give that user the access to access company hub. Okay. So now if you take a look for that user, in order to set up a company hub for a given user, ideally it is um, ideally the whole recommended process is that you set up that person with the corresponding role, in this case a company hub. Okay, so I'll be going and setting up the company hub available role, and if you see, I'm logged in with that external user, okay, in Business Central, and I am able to access data from other tenant into this single into another tenant, and I'm able to get the environment details from there as well. Okay, so once I set up everything, I give him the profile, I give him the permissions. Now when I log in into Business Central, this is the whole main screen which I should be able to see for the external accountant, where he'll see all the list of companies, his tasks, his environments, and his couple of balances, task balances, overdues, and all these things. And this is a screenshot with the desktop app which is created for Business Central. I think it is known as the modern client of Business Central. um, it is pretty much the same as a web client, whereas when I ran it across through my mobile phone app, I was able to see in this view. So this is with regards to the setup of user setup for Company Hub and Business Central and inviting external accountants. So this is pretty much how it looks. Things to remember for user setup is, first you need to give the appropriate permissions. Second, you need to make sure that the user having access in one tenant with a specific account needs to have the same access with the specific credentials into another tenant, which means I have to set up the external accountant in such a way that, let's say for example, I'm logged in as Olister at the rate org1.onmicrosoft.com. Using that same account, I should be able to log in into my different Business Central tenant. Okay, so the only difference is with that same login credentials, I should be I should just basically change the URL, and on the basis of that, I can log in into multiple tenants. So make sure to have that. Secondly, for you can include, by default you are allowed to include the current tenants production and sandbox environments, but uh, like you can expand your horizons and move to different tenants if you're willing to. Okay, and then they have provided like you have to provide a dedicated company hub role center for that user, so that he should be only able to access all the details that are present inside his company hub role center. Then coming to the part of company hub setup, so if you realize, company hub is now an extension inside Business Central. So just as you install any app, like there's a base application, there are other many applications which you can install from my marketplace. Similarly, company hub comes out of the box with Business Central version 17 onwards. So it is something that you it is like you don't need to keep it if you're not going to use it, but if you want to use it, it is mandatory that you need to have that extension in place. Okay, so this is the extension, and then let's start with the company hub setup. So inside company hub, we have different environments. So environments are something like to which Business Central environments I'm trying to connect to using my company hub. So in this case, I have a method of grouping environments. So it is like a table environment groups inside company hub, where you can give all the, you can group in all the companies from a given tenant, and you can use it further to, like have an indented view under that specific view. Okay, so this is a group. Moving on, we have a method of importing and exporting environments. So generally, if you import and export environments, you the data is interacted with through the JSON template which is available. So in this case, I have created like I'll just show you. This is the environment details that are being signed up, and if you notice, there's a group code, which means that under which group I want to categorize my environment into. So this is how the JSON looks. Now this is when I actually go and create my environment. So if I click on the plus icon in the environments list, I am able to see this card page. I just have to provide the number, the name, and the most important part is the environment link. So environment link is nothing but everything after the production. So in this case, if I go and access like the Business Central production, I'll copy the whole URL and I'll just put it into this system. And when I go and do the test connection, automatically it will take up the details and it will ask you to log in into your Business Central environment. And after that is done, like you are able to access your company hub setup. Okay, so okay, so when I click on the text test connection, it will let me connect to the same to the specific environment that I have configured for. And now I'm logging. It will like push me to that specific environment. It will ask me if I have done my job correctly, and accordingly I should be able to see. So now if you see in the company name, there's like an indent, which means that I'm grouping up my companies with that specific group code. Okay, so this is the dashboard for company hub once I have set up. Okay, then when it comes to setting up user task, so a user task is like let's say I have a couple of tasks that I have to do. Okay, but I want to have an overview in my company hub. I'll go into my normal accountant's dashboard or any other dashboard and I'll search for user tasks. And this in this case, I'll just put in the user task group. Just I've mentioned like here, I can assign it to multiple user groups, but I'll just give the task to that specific user. Okay, like this. So in this case, I have created my user task. Okay, and I have assigned it with the specific task group. I have put in the details. I have put in if it requires a recurrence or no. And then when I save it, okay, and when I go into my company hub, okay, I should be able to see that user task inside my company, uh, inside my company hub. And from here onwards, I can decide whether I have to mark my task completed, I want to refresh it, I want to reload all the tasks which are available. Okay, so you could think like company hub as an extension which is pretty much devoid of current Business Central base app, but the way it connects is through APIs, so that it can allow this connection between multiple tenant environments. Okay, so that way you have to refresh all the data, so that way you can make sure that your correct tasks are pulled in and you get the correct statuses. So once your task is done, you can just mark it as complete. So now you can see that I have a list of recurring tasks which are present, and these recurring tasks come up for everyday basis, and I can just go and I can mark it as complete. Once it's done, I can put in my comments, and that's it. That's all with regards to user task. Now, coming to the interesting part, like the error list. Now, you will ask me a question: why do you require an error list? So, the answer behind that is just as I said, that Business Central is completely different, and the Company Hub is a completely different extension. Like it is installed inside Business Central, but the way it accesses data is completely different. Generally, if you are doing any extension development, you would simply use the record, okay, as a reference. In this case, it does not use this record as a reference. Instead, it uses APIs to basically do a get post call to make the transactions between all this data. So if there are any integration errors, you need to see what all errors are there. So this is a list of error where you can go and see what is the issue, what happened, and why this error is coming. And over time, you have the ability to clear all the errors. Okay, so things to remember inside Company Hub. First is that it has a dedicated extension app. The second one is the environment. setup is allowed between the current tenants and external tenants, but the difference is that you need to set up the corresponding person for corresponding user account for it. And the key features is environments, user tasks, error checking, and basically all of these, including the permission part. Okay, so now I'm going to talk about the interesting details about the development. Like, let's say you have a company hub, and this is especially interesting for me because I have a technical background, and let's say I have to customize this app. How would I do it? So the best way of doing it is by adding a dependency in your Business Central extension development, like just like I have mentioned in the screenshot. And once I download the symbol, I should be able to download the Company Hub extension um, as my app packages. And using that package, I can, I should be able to extend whatever I'm doing. So in this case, I've just demonstrated a sample extension where I'm adding fields, actions, and simple messages to prove my point. But all the data that is being transferred between through the API integration, it happens with the help of like the post and get calls inside the Company Hub. So I was able to get this in place, and once I am running this dashboard, it will give me this message. I can just show you that the two fields that I have added an action, and when I click on it, it will give you this button. So overall, how Company Hub works is like, if you see on the left hand side we have the Company Hub, and on the right hand side we have Business Central. So Business Central means it can be a sandbox or production or anything. And Company Hub basically has tables to store the data, pages for the UI, role centers for dashboards, and code units for integration purpose. So all the payload that is being transferred between Business Central and Company Hub is using the post and get calls. That is basically like your API integration. So using that way, your Company Hub actually connects with Business Central. Now if you are very curious and would like to check it, I would recommend that you download the Business Central version 17 on-premise installation, and inside that you have various apps and app source codes. So through that, I actually came to know how this Company Hub app is created. I would not be putting this source code here because time is limited. So if you have any questions, you can come to me and we can discuss about it. Okay, so key things to remember about the development side of the Company Hub. First one is the extensibility is allowed, provided you use the app as a dependency app. There are just basic tables and pages for display purpose, but uh, I would say the major integration is done by the code units, and it is done with the help of get and post. So that's it from my end, and I hope you guys have any questions. In case you require any contact details, here are my contact details. You can contact me on LinkedIn. You can take a look at my blog where I'll be posting my blogs like at least twice, two blogs every month. I'll try for like one blog every week, but I'm basically going to put this slide as a part of my blog as well, so you can refer, you can understand what is going on, and if you have any queries, you can contact me on LinkedIn and my email address. That's it, guys. Thank you very much. Have a good day. Bye bye.